Have you ever heard a story so unexpected that it forced you to question everything you thought you knew? Millions did when two identical Saudi twins sat before cameras and shared an experience they said forever changed their lives. Some dismissed them immediately. Others couldn't stop listening. But before this testimony ends, you'll understand why their story spread across the world. If you believe Jesus still changes lives today, take a moment to subscribe and join this growing family of faith. Stay with me until the very end, because what happened next completely changed everything. And before we begin, don't hesitate to share your prayer request in the comments. Our community regularly prays for one another. Also tell us your location, the exact time you're watching, and where you're joining from. We'd love to know how far this message is reaching. My name is Kareem. At least, that's the name I'll use here. My brother's name is Khalid. We are identical twins, born only minutes apart. People always laughed because even our parents struggled to tell us apart when we were children. Teachers mixed us up. Friends confused us. We even finished each other's sentences. Growing up, everyone believed our future had already been decided. We would follow the same traditions, attend the same schools, build the same careers, marry, raise families, and never question the faith we inherited. That was simply our world. Neither of us imagined that one week would completely overturn everything we thought we knew. This happened in the Mecca region of Saudi Arabia during the spring of 2023. At the time, I was 28 years old. My brother and I had become well-known online. Every week we appeared together in interviews, educational programs, and community events. Thousands recognized our faces. Many admired us. Some even called us role models. Our schedules were packed. Television appearances, university invitations, business meetings, social media recordings. Life seemed successful. But success has a strange way of hiding what is happening inside a person's heart. Every night after the cameras stopped recording, silence filled the room. Questions I never dared ask during the day became impossible to ignore. One evening my brother looked at me after dinner. Kareem. What? Have you ever wondered if we're only pretending to have all the answers? His question startled me. I laughed nervously. What do you mean? He stared at the floor. I don't know. I just feel empty. I had never heard my brother speak like that. He was always confident, always certain, always ready with an answer. But that night, his voice trembled. I wanted to change the subject. Instead, I asked something I never thought I would say aloud. Do you ever feel like God is farther away than everyone thinks? He slowly looked at me. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then he whispered, "Every single day." Those 4 words shocked me more than anything else he could have said. Because I had been hiding the exact same struggle. 4 years. Outwardly, our lives looked perfect. Inwardly, we carried questions we dared not voice. We prayed. We fasted. We studied. We worked harder. Yet something inside remained unsettled. It wasn't rebellion. It wasn't hatred. It was hunger. A longing neither of us could explain. Weeks passed. Neither of us mentioned that conversation again. Yet something had changed. Whenever we stood before crowds, whenever people praised us, whenever cameras pointed toward our faces, I couldn't stop hearing my brother's words. I feel empty. The applause suddenly sounded different. The recognition felt hollow. Success no longer satisfied me. Then something unusual happened. During one of our media appearances, an elderly maintenance worker quietly approached us after everyone else had left. He wasn't famous. No cameras were recording. He simply smiled. "You boys remind me of myself when I was young." We thanked him politely. Then he asked an unexpected question. "Have either of you ever asked God to reveal himself, even if the answer surprises you? My heart skipped. My brother answered first. I don't understand. The old man smiled again. Truth never fears an honest question. Then he walked away. That was all. No sermon. No debate. No argument. Just one sentence. Yet somehow, we couldn't forget it. Driving home, neither of us spoke for almost 30 minutes. Finally Khalid broke the silence. That man. What about him? I've never met anyone who looked so peaceful. I shrugged. Maybe. But inside, I knew exactly what he meant. There was something different about him. Not his words. Not his appearance. His peace. It was unlike anything I had ever witnessed. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, one question returned. What if I've been afraid to ask God for the truth? The thought terrified me. I pushed it away, turned on the television, checked my phone, read messages. Nothing distracted me. The question refused to leave. 3 nights later, something happened that neither my brother nor I have ever been able to explain naturally. It began with a dream. But it wasn't my dream. It was his. And what he told me the following morning sent chills through my entire body. Because before he spoke a single word, I had already experienced something almost impossible to believe. And when we finally compared our experiences, we realized they were connected in a way neither of us could have imagined. That was the moment everything began to change. The next morning, I woke before sunrise. Something felt different. Not outside. Inside. I walked into the kitchen, expecting to find my brother making coffee before another busy day of interviews. Instead, he was sitting silently at the table. His coffee had gone cold. His hands were trembling. He looked as though he hadn't slept at all. Khalid. He slowly raised his head. I need to tell you something. His voice was barely above a whisper. I had a dream last night. Normally, I would have smiled and joked that he watched too many movies before bed. But something in his expression stopped me. This wasn't ordinary. What kind of dream? For nearly a minute he didn't answer. Instead, he stared out the window. Finally he spoke. It felt more real than being awake. Those words sent a chill through me. He described standing alone in a vast courtyard beneath a sky unlike anything he had ever seen. There was light everywhere, he said. But it wasn't hurting my eyes. He paused. I heard someone call my name. I leaned forward. What happened next? He swallowed hard. I turned around. His voice broke. There was a man dressed in white. He didn't say much, Khalid continued. But when he looked at me, I felt completely known. No pretending. No hiding. It was as though every fear I'd carried for years was already visible. I could see tears forming in my brother's eyes. Then he whispered something that neither of us had expected. He simply said, "Do not be afraid to seek the truth with all your heart." Silence filled the kitchen. Neither of us spoke. Finally I asked the question that had been building inside me. What happened after that? He reached toward me. But before I could take another step, I woke up. He rubbed his face. I know it was only a dream. Maybe it doesn't mean anything. But I can't stop thinking about it. I took a deep breath. Khalid. There is something I haven't told you. He looked up. What? I've been having strange dreams too. His eyes widened. You too? I nodded. But mine wasn't the same. For the past several nights, I had repeatedly dreamed of standing in complete darkness. Then a single beam of light would appear in the distance. No voice. No figure. Only light. Yet every time I walked toward it, I would wake up before reaching it. I never told anyone. I assumed it was stress. My brother stared at me in disbelief. Neither of us knew what to make of it. That day we tried to continue life as normal. We attended meetings, recorded interviews, smiled for photographs, answered questions. Everyone believed everything was fine. But behind every smile, our minds returned to those dreams. The questions grew louder. What did they mean? Were they simply the result of exhaustion? Or were they pointing us toward something we didn't yet understand? A week later, something else happened. It was entirely unexpected. During a charity event, we met a doctor from another country. He wasn't there to discuss religion. He had come to volunteer. After the event, we found ourselves talking with him over tea. He spoke about life, family, hope, forgiveness. His calmness reminded me of the elderly maintenance worker we'd met days earlier. At one point he smiled and said, "Every person eventually asks the same question." "What is that?" I asked. "Where can I find lasting peace?" No one spoke. Then he added gently, "I've learned that honest questions are never wasted." His words lingered long after the conversation ended. That night my brother knocked on my bedroom door. "I've made a decision." "What decision?" "I'm going to pray." I laughed softly. "We already pray." He shook his head. "No. I mean a different kind of prayer." He looked directly into my eyes. "I'm simply going to ask God. If there is more you want me to understand, please show me." I didn't answer immediately. Part of me admired his courage. Another part of me was afraid. Afraid of what the answer might be. For 3 nights in a row, we each prayed quietly and privately. No elaborate words. No audience. No performance. Just a simple request for guidance and wisdom. Neither of us expected anything to happen. Then, on the 4th night, everything changed. I woke suddenly just after midnight. The room was completely silent. Yet I felt an overwhelming sense that I should get up and pray. Not because I heard a voice. Not because I saw a vision. But because my heart felt unusually stirred. I knelt beside my bed and prayed for wisdom, peace, and the courage to follow truth wherever it led. When I finished, I felt an unexpected calm. The next morning, Khalid rushed into my room. His face was pale. "Kareem, you won't believe what happened." "What is it?" "I had another dream." He struggled to find the words. "This time, it wasn't just a dream." At least, that's how it felt to him. He described an experience so vivid that he woke with tears on his face. He said he believed he encountered Jesus, who spoke words of peace and invited him not to fear seeking God with a sincere heart. Whether others would interpret it the same way or not, Khalid was convinced the experience was deeply personal and life-changing. I listened without interrupting. I wanted to dismiss it, to explain it away, to tell him it was merely emotion. But before I could speak, he looked at me and asked one question. "Kareem, why did I wake up with a peace I've never experienced before?" I had no answer, because as I looked into my brother's eyes, for the first time in years, the emptiness I'd seen there was gone. Something had changed. Not his appearance, not his voice, but the fear that had haunted him seemed to have been replaced by a quiet confidence. And deep inside, I found myself wondering, could my own search be leading somewhere I had never expected? Little did I know that within days, we would face a decision that could cost us our reputation, our careers, and nearly every relationship we held dear. I wish I could tell you that everything became easier after my brother shared his experience. It didn't. In fact, everything became more complicated. Questions that once lived only in our hearts now followed us everywhere. Every interview, every meeting, every quiet moment. We smiled in front of cameras, but behind every smile was the same question. If God is leading us somewhere, what will it cost? Neither of us knew the answer, but we were about to find out. One evening, after another exhausting day of public appearances, Khalid looked at me and said, "We can't keep pretending nothing has changed." I sighed. What are we supposed to do? He lowered his voice. "I've been reading." My heart skipped. Reading what? He hesitated before answering. "I've been studying the teachings of Jesus." The room fell silent. I looked toward the door instinctively, almost expecting someone to be listening. "Khalid, are you serious?" He nodded. "I'm not trying to argue with anyone. I'm simply trying to understand." For the next several weeks, we met quietly after everyone else had gone to bed. No cameras. No audience. No social media. Just two brothers asking difficult questions. We compared passages from different sources. We talked for hours. Sometimes we agreed. Sometimes we disagreed. Sometimes we became frustrated. But one thing surprised both of us. Instead of becoming more divided, we became more honest. One night Khalid asked me a question that I couldn't answer. "Kareem, if God truly loves people, would he reject someone for sincerely seeking truth?" I stared at the table. "I don't know." He continued. "What if we've been more afraid of people's opinions than of asking honest questions?" Those words stayed with me long after the conversation ended. Days later, something happened that neither of us expected. Our manager called. "We've been invited to appear on one of the largest television programs in the region." Normally we would have celebrated. Instead, I felt uneasy. For reasons I couldn't explain. The interview was scheduled for the following week. Thousands would watch. Perhaps millions online afterward. The host was known for asking difficult questions. As we prepared backstage, I noticed Khalid pacing. "You all right?" He forced a smile. "I'm trying to be." "You look nervous." "I am." "Why?" He looked directly into my eyes. "Because I promised myself I would never lie again." His words unsettled me. "What do you mean?" "If they ask whether anything has changed in my life, I don't know if I can hide it anymore. For the first time since we were children, I was afraid for my brother. Not because of his questions, but because I knew how quickly public opinion could change. People loved inspiring stories, but they rarely welcomed uncomfortable ones. The interview began. Bright lights. Large audience. Professional cameras. Everything felt normal. At first, the host smiled warmly. "You two have become some of the most recognized young voices in the country." We thanked him. The conversation moved naturally. Family, education, community work, our future plans. Then, without warning, the host leaned forward. "I want to ask something more personal." Every muscle in my body tightened. He smiled. "Many people say success brings peace." He paused. "Has success brought you peace?" The studio became unusually quiet. I expected one of our usual polished answers. Instead, Khalid looked down, then back at the audience. He took a slow breath. Finally he spoke. "Success gave us recognition. It gave us opportunities. But peace." He stopped. "Peace is something we have been searching for." The audience became completely silent. Even the host seemed surprised. The interview ended. Most people probably thought nothing of it. But online, everything exploded. Thousands of comments appeared within hours. Some praised our honesty. Others criticized us. People began asking questions. What did they mean? Why did they look emotional? Why did they hesitate? Speculation spread rapidly. Neither of us expected what happened next. A few days later, an anonymous message appeared in my inbox. There was no name, no profile picture, only one sentence. The truth may cost you everything, but it is worth more than anything. I stared at the screen for several minutes. Who sent it? How did they know what we were struggling with? I never discovered the answer, but I couldn't ignore the message. That evening, Khalid and I drove out beyond the city lights. We wanted somewhere quiet, somewhere we could think. We parked overlooking the desert. The stars seemed brighter than usual. Neither of us spoke for several minutes. Finally, I broke the silence. If this journey leads somewhere we never expected. Are you prepared? He didn't answer immediately. Then he quietly said, I've been asking God for courage. I looked toward the horizon. So have I. In the weeks that followed, we continued our search with humility and prayer. Our conversations grew deeper. Our questions became more honest. And gradually, both of us found ourselves increasingly drawn to the person of Jesus, his teachings about love, forgiveness, mercy, and hope. This wasn't a sudden decision. It was a process, a journey, one step at a time. Then came the day that changed everything. We were invited to speak at a large public event. Journalists filled the front rows. Television cameras lined the stage. The atmosphere was electric. As we stood behind the microphones, I noticed my brother's hands shaking. He leaned toward me and whispered, Kareem. This is the moment. I swallowed hard. What moment? The moment we stop hiding our journey. I looked out across the crowd. Hundreds of faces stared back. Camera lights flashed. My heart pounded. I realized that, after today, nothing would ever be the same again. What happened next would make headlines around the world, divide public opinion, and become the most talked about moment of our lives. And neither of us could have imagined the unexpected response that followed. As I looked across the audience, it felt as though time had stopped. Hundreds of people were watching. Television cameras were already broadcasting live. Journalists sat with notebooks open. Social media influencers held up their phones, streaming every second. The lights were bright. The room was silent. My heart was pounding so loudly that I wondered if the microphone would pick it up. Khalid leaned toward me and whispered, This is our moment. I nodded slowly. There was no turning back. The event moderator welcomed everyone and introduced us. The applause was overwhelming. Normally, we would have smiled confidently and followed our prepared remarks. But that day was different. I looked at the speech in my hand. Then I folded it, placed it on the podium, and looked directly into the audience. Khalid and I prepared a speech for today. I paused. But instead, we'd like to share something personal. Immediately the room grew quiet. People leaned forward. No one expected what came next. I continued. For many years, people believed we had every answer. They saw our success. They saw our confidence. But they never saw the questions we carried in private. The audience listened carefully. Some nodded. Others looked confused. Khalid stepped beside me. For months, he said, we have been searching for truth with sincere hearts. We prayed for wisdom, studied, reflected, and asked God to guide us. He took a deep breath. I also had an experience that I believe changed my life. He explained that he had experienced a vivid dream in which he believed Jesus spoke words of peace and encouraged him not to fear seeking truth wholeheartedly. He spoke carefully. He didn't demand that others accept his interpretation. He simply shared what he believed had happened to him. The room remained completely silent. The moderator looked stunned. One of the journalists quickly raised a hand. Are you saying you believe this dream changed your life? Khalid answered calmly. I'm saying it caused me to seek God more sincerely than ever before." Another reporter asked, "So what happened after that?" I smiled. That was only the beginning. We explained how our journey had led us to spend months praying, asking questions, and studying the life and teachings of Jesus. We talked about forgiveness, grace, love for one's enemies, hope, mercy, compassion. The more we learned, the more we found ourselves drawn to those teachings. Not because anyone forced us, not because of pressure, but because we believed our search for truth required honesty. The room was filled with mixed emotions. Some people listened respectfully. Others were skeptical. A few quietly left. Many simply sat in thoughtful silence. After the event ended, reporters surrounded us. Questions came from every direction. Were you afraid? What will your future look like? Do you regret speaking publicly? Khalid answered first. We knew there could be consequences. But living honestly is more important than protecting our image. Over the next several days, clips from the event spread rapidly across social media. Some viewers encouraged us. Others criticized us. Many simply wanted to hear our full story before forming an opinion. Our inbox filled with messages from people around the world. One message came from a young university student. He wrote, "I've been afraid to ask honest questions about faith for years. Your story reminded me that searching for truth doesn't have to begin with fear." Another came from a woman who said, "Whether people agree with your conclusions or not, your honesty encouraged me to pray more sincerely." Those messages reminded us that respectful conversations can inspire others to seek God with humility. Several months later, our lives looked very different. Some opportunities had disappeared. Others unexpectedly opened. More importantly, our hearts had changed. The emptiness that once followed us everywhere had been replaced by a deep sense of purpose. We discovered that peace was not found in fame, not in influence, not in applause, but in sincerely seeking God and living according to one's convictions. That journey wasn't easy. It involved difficult conversations, sacrifice, and uncertainty. But looking back, we would not trade it for anything. If you've listened this far, perhaps you're carrying questions of your own. Maybe you've wondered whether God hears your prayers. Maybe you're searching for hope in the middle of disappointment. Maybe you're simply longing for peace. Our encouragement to you is this. Don't be afraid to seek God with sincerity. Ask Him for wisdom. Pray honestly. Read His Word thoughtfully. Wherever your journey begins, pursue truth with humility, compassion, and courage. Before we close, we'd love to pray for you. If you're believing God for healing, restoration, guidance, wisdom, or strength, don't hesitate to share your prayer request in the comments. Our prayer team and many members of this community regularly pray for those who write in. Also tell us what country and region you're watching from, the exact local time you're watching this video, how this testimony encouraged you today. It's amazing to see people from every corner of the world encouraging one another in faith. If this story encouraged you, don't forget to subscribe and become part of this growing family. Share this testimony with someone who may need hope today. No matter where you are or what you're facing, remember this. God invites people to seek Him with sincere hearts. Even in seasons of uncertainty, hope can grow, questions can lead to deeper understanding, and lives can be transformed through a genuine pursuit of truth. Thank you for watching, and may God bless you.